everyone. Welcome to this special edition, special 2A edition of Generally Irritable. I've got a special guest here with me today, Miss Nikki, aka Liberty Doll.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to the channel. Now you are another big 2A advocate, Second Amendment proponent. Benjamin and I have been watching your content for years. We love the stuff that you share, so we're very honored to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about all of the wins we have been seeing across the country in the lower courts and in the Supreme Court. Basically, we're seeing a massive restoration of Second Amendment rights across the country, even in blue cities and blue states.
Yes.
It's
I actually,
amazing.
this morning I was scrolling through my news apps to figure out what I was going to do for my next video because I am never ahead in making videos. And I actually saw a headline about how the Biden administration and blue politicians were arguing that Bruin is destabilizing the country by allowing gun owners to have some of their rights back. They actually used that phrase, destabilizing the country.
What
That's
what does
amazing.
that? Oh my God! You know what? That's because. Okay, now I'm gonna go off on a tangent here.
How dare people
What
be
does that-
free, you know?
How dare you be free? Oh, and speaking of which, by the way, everybody, you guys know him, you love him. Benjamin Nathaniel Reddick the second, aka A Darker Perspective. He's also joining us on the channel today. Big 2A advocate. Benjamin, what do you think? What do you think they mean by destabilizing?
I think they mean that they are losing the little levers of control that they had. That's all it means. It's not destabilizing it for us. It's destabilizing it for their control. And they know, like everybody else knows, if everybody is armed, it's harder to control those people, and they're more free. I mean, some people are going to be interesting, but that's just the cost of freedom. I don't know what to tell you. There are already idiots out there with the guns. So finally, if law-abiding citizens are now picking up firearms, protect themselves, protect their homes, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think them saying, "Oh, it's destabilizing the country." It also shows how out of touch they are with reality, which is interesting to me because there's a friend of mine. We chat maybe every 3 or 6 months, but whenever we do, it's just this very long, deep, detailed, like 2-hour conversation about the current state of the world. And one of the things that he said to me last time that was very optimistic is he said that the right historically always wins because we're on the side of reality. And the reality is there was just this NBC poll that came out last week or over the weekend showing that since they started polling people on gun ownership in like 1990 or something, it's actually the rates of gun ownership are at record highs in this country.
Sweet.
66% of Republican households, and I think it was like 43% of independents, and even 41% of Democrat households now report having at least one gun in the home. And that is huge. And it was something like a 46% increase in
Wow.
the Black population.
Yes.
And so they're freaking
Even
out
better.
and they're saying, oh, it's destabilizing the country. Meanwhile, support for gun rights is at record highs.
Yeah, we can't let the black people have guns,
no,
right? I
ma'am.
mean, that's the historical context of
Listen.
gun, taking rights of gun ownership away was directed at black people.
It has
Oh, yeah,
been
absolutely.
it has been the prime directive of fools in office to keep the guns out of the hands of those darkies. They are
Oh my
failing
God, you-
spectacularly.
You're going to get demonetized so
No,
hard.
Sorry,
I
like,
can
you
say
have to
it.
get me
I
canceled,
can say that.
Benjamin.
I'm a Negro. I can say it. But I'm not also historically accurate. I'm just
It
being
is.
honest. So
I've
Well, and that's
actually-
what.
I was gonna
Well,
say,
we
I've
know.
actu- sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've actually like 3 or 4 times told myself I'm going to do this big project and cover the racist roots of gun control. And every time I do, I get like, I'm not even up to the Civil War and I've got like a 20-page document. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way that I could do a video on this and cover all of this and
Yeah.
even do it in a series of like 10 videos. It's just, it's too much.
Wow.
If you want
It's
to oppress
really-
people, you can't let them have guns.
Well, and that's what we're even seeing, like friends of ours who were not previously gun owners and they are not white. They are among that percentage of people who are now new gun owners. They
Yeah.
see all the we're down in Central Texas right now, so we're seeing the brunt of the border crisis. Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, we're seeing the brunt of it. People are scared. And so they're going out and arming themselves. Well, I think,
Yep.
Benjamin, what was it that you said to him? The father, right? So it's a family.
Okay, I'll tell you. So I had a friend of mine. He's a instructor in martial arts, so he can fight. He's a pretty weak boy, 6'1", solid. So he can handle himself in a hand-to-hand situation. He says, "Yeah, someone broke in my house. I'd use a sword or something like that." And I said, "But what about the other 2 guys and your kids and your daughters and your wife?
Your wife.
Are they, when you're fighting the one guy and there's 2 or 3 of them, are they hand-to-hand too?"
Yep.
And it
Are
started
your
to make
3
him think
little
about it.
daughters gonna be
Safe. And
manhandling?
here's the thing. He's got some little killers, okay? They're black belts. They're
They are.
trained to
They're
fight
vicious.
and scrap too, but against a grown man like me, like what is that? I mean,
Right.
you're a little girl, you're a 16-year-old girl versus a grown man. It's going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things that is, I think a lot of us forget when people talk about why they don't want a firearm is they're thinking about like a street fight. They're thinking about some person who just wants to fight you, not someone who wants to destroy your home. They're not thinking about someone who wants to essay your family members and things like that, or murder you, really. They're not thinking about the fact that the person who's attacking you may be a professional at violence, and or if they're smart, this is premeditated. They might have watched you.
Yep.
They know exactly what you can and can't do when you're not ready. So this is not it's never a fair fight. It's always a fight that's fair or better. The odds are forever in the criminal's favor who is initiating the violence.
Okay, so here I'm gonna say we're gonna play a little bit of a Rorschach test.
Rorschach, I think.
Rorschach.
It's not said in the movie.
I've heard it both ways. I mean, I went to graduate school for psychology, and I've heard it both ways. So
Okay, so the blob test. Okay.
yes,
Right.
Ink
the blob
blot,
test.
technically.
My expertise
Ink blot,
comes from
that's
the Watchmen.
what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say a word, and I want your first reaction.
Oh no.
Okay, you ready?
Okay, this is new.
ATF.
I can't say those words on YouTube. Because I'm originally from Massachusetts. My head went right to the F-bomb.
Oppression.
It's one of the things that I love that you do. You cover the ATF a lot because they are
It's
a
such
terrorist
easy
organization.
They
That's what the
absolutely are.
tyranny is. What my thought.
They are a
tyranny,
terrorist
oppression.
organization. They are a terrorist wing of the United States government. I'm sure I can't
Wow.
say
The whole
that
government
either.
is kind of
don't-
a terrorist.
I don't think we can say any of this. Actually,
The U.S. government fits its own definition of terrorism, but that's neither here nor there.
Right? Okay, well,
Wait,
this
what?
might be a Rumble only segment. We'll see. But tell me, was there anything that in particular that got you really paying attention to that organization? Is it just your passion for the Second Amendment? What drives you to cover them and to really expose them for what they are?
Oh goodness. Well, a couple of things. The first being that when they started really doing more outlandish things under the Biden administration, they increased their knock and talks, as they call it, basically like the ATF version of no knock raids.
Yeah.
Or just showing up at people's houses and being like, you have this thing on this list that we're not supposed to legally have. You always see it on social media, the left always says, well, no one's coming for your guns. And then here was the ATF literally coming for people's guns. And I'm like, here it is. Here is the thing that you guys keep saying isn't happening. So that was the first part of it. And the second part of it is this funny thing happened when I started covering the ATF more, and that is that YouTube basically decided I wasn't allowed to talk about anything else. I got pigeonholed into this because, I mean, if you have really been watching my channel for years and you know I used to cover all kinds of other issues, well, YouTube already throttles my channel to begin with, which I learned
anything gun related.
Yeah. Which I really learned the extent of when I started a second non-gun channel. Like I have this gardening and homesteading channel, and that grew so much, like exponentially faster. And people that I know that have never subscribed to my other channel are randomly like, oh yeah, I saw you in this gardening video, blah, 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 blah. So that really proved how much I'm being throttled. But for some reason, YouTube throttles the non-Second Amendment and non-ATF content even more. So they have pigeonholed me now into this spot where that's the only thing they'll even let me talk about, even though they don't like it. I don't know. And this was confirmed to me because I work with Leviathan Group to find sponsors and things like that because mama got to pay the bills, and YouTube doesn't really do ad revenue on firearms videos anymore. It's startling to see how much that has tanked as a stay-at-home mom. But this was confirmed to me by the folks over there that, like, okay, yeah, now they've put you in this category, and they just won't let you talk about anything else. But since the Biden administration got in charge, there has been an overabundance of things to talk about anyways.
That's what I love your channel, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. For those of you who are, let me see, what is it, at Liberty Doll? Let me just double check. Yep, it is
Probably.
at Liberty Doll on YouTube. You're on Twitter too, right?
I am, but I don't use it that often. I don't know. I find like it's a good place to get. It's a good place to get more eyeballs on your content, but Twitter throttles YouTube links, and I don't know.
Oh yeah.
The last time that I logged into Twitter for anything beyond sharing a video was when the current Israel conflict had just started, and I was literally on there for less than 5 minutes, and my feed was just covered of pictures of dead and wounded children with people arguing as to whether or not the photos were real. And I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm all set.
Oh, wow. Yeah, some Twitter can be an absolute cesspool sometimes.
Yeah.
So this is your YouTube channel. Everybody go check her out on YouTube at Liberty Doll. Excellent content. Whether it's stupid stuff going on around the country, informational, coaching, like on your rights and stuff. You cover a lot of really cool stuff. One that I thought was super funny was this one that you posted about a month ago. College builds the wall to keep out crime. So somehow a college in Baltimore figured out that walls keep out criminals?
Yes. In fact, and the funny thing is they had a wall around part of the campus, but that wall had been built in the 40s, and it's the college. The name of it is escaping me at the moment, but it's a historically Black school, and they did have a wall around part of the school that was actually constructed to separate them from the neighboring white community, and so it was deemed like the hate wall or something, and they just tore it down for being racist, I think like in April or something. And then, Baltimore was Baltimore, and there was all this crime going on. And then there was a specific incident in which kids were going, I say kids, but young adults were going from like the dorms, the campus center to whatever for some like homecoming dance or something. And some guy not related to the school got on campus and was shooting, and a couple of students got caught in the crossfire. They were not the intended targets. It was like gang violence or something, Baltimore being Baltimore. And that was like the second similar incident in the last couple of years. And so they made this announcement that they are going to be enclosing 90% of the campus behind a wall. I forget how tall. It's like going to be like an 8-foot wall or something like that. And they're going to have security at every entrance and exit now, and limit the ways that you can get onto campus.
So strange. Golly,
So
that is
security.
It's
Vaguely.
almost like this
Security.
thing that was invented thousands of years ago.
sounds like another place where someone talked about a
So
wall.
Right.
Man,
So
was it
you know,
Lean on Me? No, it's not that. It's not that. It wasn't a movie Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman. Something
And
else.
wasn't it the guy with the hair?
Yeah, the Glorf. What's his name again?
Oh my god. Oh
Can't
my
remember.
god.
Can't remember. I don't know.
He
It'll
was
come
in
to
like
me
a
later.
Cheeto commercial or something.
Yeah, he was hanging out with rappers. What was that guy's? Oh, goodness gracious. It'll come to me. It'll come to me later.
So we've got all of these court cases. They're making their way up through the lower courts. Some things are making their way to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
One that I personally am particularly interested in is the range case, which would restore Second Amendment rights to people with criminal offenses.
Okay.
Or, nonviolent criminal offenses. That I have to go double check the Supreme Court docket to see if they picked that one up or not. But
I was actually looking before I came on, and I think the only thing that's solidified at the moment is the Rahimi case, and they just heard oral arguments on the 7th, I think.
they did.
Which is yes, they just heard the
So-
first oral arguments on the 7th, and CNN was doing like a minute by minute like update. They heard like 100 minutes of oral arguments, and that'll be a really interesting case to watch because
he's
it
not
just-
he's not a sympathetic character.
no, and during
So-
arguments, his
so wait,
lawyer
so-
even admitted he's like dangerous. But anyways, that's not what you
Yeah.
asked about. You asked about
So
range.
wait, hold on. So for our listeners that don't know, the Rahimi case and the range case are two cases. I didn't realize the Rahimi case was being
Yeah.
Okay. So they are two cases that were making their way up through the lower courts. And it's basically about restoration of Second Amendment rights for people with criminal records. The Rahimi case is considered less, he's a less sympathetic character because he was convicted of domestic assault.
Yes. So what
And-
happened was he was in a parking lot and got in a fight with his girlfriend and like knocked her to the ground and like dragged her by the hair to his car, and like she hit her head on the dashboard, and then afterwards he said to her over the phone, if you tell anyone, I'm going to shoot you. And then she filed a restraining order. And then it turned out that he was suspected in being involved. I don't know if it was confirmed or if he was convicted, but being involved in some shootings in Texas. And in one of them, specifically, it was in 2021, I think he was at like a Whataburger. And when his friend's credit card got declined, he like took out his gun and like shot into the air. And so he's
not a good representative.
And they
of,
found, to my knowledge, they found like his guns with a copy of the restraining order prohibiting him from owning guns. So, I mean, it's not, his attorney even admitted in court that he's a dangerous person. Well,
So the range case, which Amy Coney Barrett referenced during, my understanding is during, I didn't realize it was during oral arguments. I thought it was when they were considering which cases to hear. So I am
It might have
really,
been
really
both.
curious how this is going to turn out. So Range was a guy who, oh my God, now I just forgot. So his was something stupid. He has a misdemeanor for like something really stupid, like lying on a form to get food stamps.
Okay, I was trying to
And
remember if that's the
so,
case. Yeah.
yes, yeah. So now he can't have guns because he
Right.
has a misdemeanor for lying about his income to get food stamps, which really
Yep.
just
Which was
see,
1995. Range pleaded guilty to making false statements about his income to obtain about $2,500 of food stamp assistance. His conviction was classified as a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment. People in
yeah.
Massachusetts lie on their food stamps all the time.
Yeah, so this definitely seems like a reason to take someone's constitutional rights away. I don't know about
Yeah.
what you guys. Does that seem, 20 you steal $2,500, you should never get to protect your life?
I mean, part of me is like, good on you for stealing that money from the government. And then the other part of me is like, my taxes went to that.
I mean, is it stealing if it's, I mean, he paid taxes at some point. It's his money too.
Hey, here's the deal.
I'm
I
not
just
saying
got-
it. Wait, let's be clear. We're not advocating that anybody
Not
listening to
advocating
this show
theft
go break the law.
or fraud.
Okay,
No,
we're not telling you to do
absolutely
that.
Okay, just be
However,
clear.
taxation is theft.
Yes.
However, they steal from us all the time and they're criminals, but
Constantly.
whatevs. I did just, by the way, get notification that my student loans have been forgiven. And funny
Wow.
enough, oh yeah, it said at the bottom of the email, go on social media, let everybody
Oh,
know
yeah.
how this was so good for you and how the
See,
Biden
I was the
administration is
dumbass
so
that paid
nice.
them off.
And I laughed, Benjamin,
mine
and I
too.
looked at each other and we laughed, and I was like, bruh, those are my tax dollars. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to thank you for paying off my student loans with my
Yeah.
money. What are
Yeah,
you
you-
talking about?
You lent me
Like-
my money to go to school, and then you paid off the loan of my money to me with my money.
I mean, it might not have been all of your tax money. It could be some of the money that they printed out of thin air.
Oh, it's my inflation duty money. Got it. Yeah. I paid
Okay.
mine off too. To be honest with you, I paid off my student loans a while ago. But
Yeah, you guys are
it
suckers.
was so gross. What was so gross is it's like, hey guys, tell us we're doing good, and tell us, hey, I'm Joe Biden. My administration did the thing for you, and I'm looking at this and going, I've never seen a government document look this thirsty in my entire life. This is the thirstiest state doc I've ever seen in my entire existence. It's gross. It's disgusting. You should have more pride and respect for yourself and your administration, sir.
So speaking
Oh.
of thirsty, how about getting rid of these mag bans and all this other stuff around the country?
Let's see. Which states was that? Oregon recently, or was that the measure 114? I saw was just ruled unconstitutional.
Yep, the
But I
Supreme
know-
Court ruled the mag limits unconstitutional. Hold on. I'm going to look for it. Keep talking.
But I know Illinois is having a tough time because they have a mag ban, an assault weapons ban that the courts there actually affirmed that it is constitutional. I don't remember what circuit they're in, but it's clearly not a friendly one.
Well, let's see. So the Supreme Court just struck down magazine bans and ruled them unconstitutional. Oregon, okay.
I believe that was a
Oregon
state
measure
Supreme Court.
114. Yep. Oh, wait, hold on. Yep. Oregon. Okay, so Oregon got struck down.
There are so many pending cases from different places over different things or similar things that I
Yep.
can't keep straight who is doing
No.
what.
There's something in Maryland too. So even
Yeah.
in blue states, they're losing.
So Maryland, this just happened yesterday or the day before. Wait, what is today? Today is Wednesday? Okay, it could have been 2 days ago. Time and space as a toddler mom just Blends all together. So the Maryland case was about preemption law. So with preemption law, basically little municipalities and cities cannot make their own laws that are stricter than state law, so that it doesn't create this patchwork of having to know the gun laws of every little jurisdiction that you go through.
Got it.
And Maryland, there was one jurisdiction that included Baltimore. No, wasn't Baltimore. But there was one jurisdiction that basically created an expanded definition of gun-free zones and the places that would count as them. So it was something about where the public would gather or where public could gather even on private property
Oh,
and like within however many feet of that area and associated properties or something like that. So basically the whole point of it was to try and prevent people from concealed carrying in this jurisdiction, like
That's
period.
what it was. Yes. So
Wow.
it almost is like setting the stage for constitutional carry across the country. If
I have seen some people arguing that, yeah.
if it makes its way up, all the way up to the Supreme Court, my understanding is it'll essentially that was what I, like you said, this is what I've heard people saying. Essentially, it'll make constitutional carry legal in all 50 states, making it so that you can actually traverse the entire country without becoming, a federal, without breaking laws or breaking state law, right? So if you,
I mean-
like as an example, driving from Vermont to Pennsylvania or some other state where they have reciprocal concealed carry licenses or constitutional carry, like you can become basically a criminal just driving through
Right.
the state of New York.
Absolutely. And I mean, if we followed Bruin, so for the anyone who doesn't know, I feel like everyone knows what Bruin is by now, but in case anyone doesn't, Bruin was a Supreme Court decision in June, I think it was, that basically said it is on the onus of the government to prove that any gun control legislation fits both the tradition of gun ownership in the United States and has a historical parallel. So it has to fit history and tradition of firearm ownership in the United States. And so one of the arguments in the Rahimi case, as we were talking about earlier, is the government is saying that there is a historical tradition of keeping guns away from dangerous people, while as one of the other arguments, and this was seen recently in a case where lifetime gun bans for DUIs were ruled unconstitutional. The argument there was, well, the historical regulations of keeping guns away from dangerous people only regulated taking the guns away at the time of intoxication and when the danger was actively happening. Once it had passed, they were allowed to have their rights back. And I forget where I was going with that tangent, but Bruin.
Supreme
Oh, yes. So
Court, Bruin. Yep.
if we were to follow Bruin to its purest, most logical conclusions, then yes, absolutely constitutional carry across all 50 states. Will that ever happen? I don't think that is anything that we will see in my lifetime. Because
Well, and
another thing
that's-
to consider is, and this was an argument that I've heard recently, is that now the government is recognizing that they are getting their butt kicked in a lot of these cases. And so they are slowing down and trying to max out the time for the appeals process to get cases in front of the Supreme Court in hopes that like Alito or Clarence Thomas will be out of the court
Yeah.
and they'll be able to replace them with another Justice
Liberal.
Brown. Yeah,
Yep.
who
Yep.
is against Bruin because she says that Bruin only takes some people's history into account and not others. That was one of her things that she actually said during the oral arguments of Rahimi.
Oh my God! If
wait,
any
wait,
one
so-
of them should know, oh.
So
Yeah.
how does
Yeah.
that work then? It feels like she'd be even more on their side.
I would think
This is-
so, yeah.
Here's my deal. This was, okay, so,
We just came full circle.
Here's the deal. Benjamin and I wrote a book, okay? It's called Reasons to Trust the Government.
Oh, I remember this one.
Okay. Now remember, this is what it was born from. It was a conversation with Benjamin and I. And, we were talking about, oh, why would anybody trust the government? They've been so terrible over the years, with all of the experiments that they've done on people when they've, sterilized people, done like lobotomies on people. They
Gave
do all this.
radioactive like cereal to children with like
Why
Down
would
syndrome.
anyone trust the government? Okay. And then I looked at Benjamin and I said, especially black people. Oh my God. Like any bad thing that has ever happened to black people in this country it was sanctioned by the government.
Oh, I mean, there's always the argument of like, well, it's institutional racism. And it's like, who do you think the institutions are?
It's the government.
I don't get it. I don't
continuously
speak
confused
for your
by
people,
my people.
Benjamin. Explain it.
I can't speak for my people. I don't understand what's happening half the time. The question I used to ask all the time, especially during all the COVID stuff, right, when all those things were happening, and then also when the riots and stuff were happening, the summer of peace and whatever it was called, right? Mostly peaceful. It was mostly peaceful. When people were just burning things down and attacking commercial buildings, and I was renting a space in a commercial building that's owned by minorities. And so I'm like, I'm a minority living in a commercial space that's owned by minorities that teaches children martial arts. So if you attack this place because it's a commercial building and it's held by, I don't know, patriarchy, whoever you think has money, the privileged, right? You destroy my business as well as another minority-owned business. So I always thought that kind of stuff was very, very strange. And when all that stuff was going on, and people were saying that was just justice, and I was like, okay, explain that to me, but sure, whatever. And then people would say like, okay, but we're terrified of cops, and because of that, if you carry a gun, if you're a black person and you believe in the Second Amendment, to just try to even out the odds in a bad situation, you will be killed by cops. And I was like, well, I thought you guys said they were already hunting us. So wouldn't it make sense for me to have weapons if I think that there are people hunting me? I just thought that made no sense. And then I thought about The Walking Dead, which is a very popular show. When they believe that there are creatures just roaming the streets ready to devour them, and that there are people marauding through the streets trying to maybe kill them and take their stuff, how do they dress and what do they normally have? Armor, weapons, anything, melee, also distance and range combat, right? Yep. So if you really are terrified and the danger's ever present, why don't we look like that? Like, why am I the one that's not afraid of cops? And, I've tried to follow the law as much as possible, as much as anybody possibly can with all these random rules. But why am I the guy that has body armor and you don't have body armor? You're the one that's scared, and you're the one saying that we're being hunted, but you don't look like we're being hunted. I'm the one that says we're not being hunted. I just want to be ready for tomfoolery. I want to be ready to get.
And people don't realize, like, I have two thoughts that popped into my head with that. And the first is one of the NRA. I know that you remember, and I'm sorry. The NRA has done some shady shit.
We're not blind to the problems.
I realized that there were some people that bought lifetime memberships, and it is what it is. One of the worst, they have done a lot of bad stuff over the last however many years, but one of the worst things that they did for themselves, I think, was not getting behind and bringing more national attention to the Philando Castile incident. There was a case of a perfectly law-abiding black man that got shot just for trying to show his gun license to cops when they asked to see his, like, that's
confusing to me. Very confusing to me.
And another thing is, these people in their, blue state ivory towers don't realize that, they always talk about the danger in crime in these inner city areas, but also like defund the police. And they don't realize that if you are one of the people in one of the inner city areas and you are truly like afraid for your life and afraid of the cops and afraid of the gang members. Everybody knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and that's the 1st thing you're going to do is you are going to arm yourself, and you're not going to worry about jumping through the hoops or like the 6 months to 3 years now it takes in some parts of New York to get your license. You're just gonna, hop on down to the guy who knows.
Yeah.
When
gotta
my
call up
husband was
Ray Ray.
looking into getting to gun ownership, he grew up in the inner city, and his mom wasn't like, oh, go do your interview. His mom was like, oh, well, why are you going to do that? Like, I know how to get you one. Like,
And
Everybody
I mean,
knows.
they literally create criminals. The
Right.
government literally creates criminals by putting barriers in the way of normal average people protecting themselves.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
imagine how much safer these communities would be if the criminals actually feared some kind of repercussion for their behavior.
Anything.
I mean, I'll tell you, here in South Carolina, there's not a whole lot of violent crime. There's property crime when other people aren't around, of breaking into people's cars.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of violent crime, person-on-person crime,
Yeah.
because you get shot.
I mean, it's so weird that we have to tell people that like you learn that in grade school. You learn that with bullies. You learn that with children. You learn that with everybody, that if you allow someone to just continually exhibit bad behavior and there are no repercussions for that whatsoever, they're going to keep exhibiting it. Exhibit A, San Francisco. Like, okay, like it's very clear what has happened. You now have children running around the neighborhoods doing robbery mobs now. Like,
I could not believe it when I read something about the other day, like there was like an 11-year-old or something involved. I could not believe that. Is so sad.
I saw in Chicago, there was like a bunch of black people. Like, look, they're like, the people doing this aren't even from around here.
Yep.
And the girl, she's like, it's bad enough already. We don't need y'all coming over here making us look bad. And so they were like protecting their stores.
Wow.
They were
Yep.
They were a physical threat of violence to
Yep.
stop the youngins from rampaging, because that's well, I don't know how you guys were raised. I'm a boy. My mom was from the South. She was raised, upstate New York, but her mom is from the South. I got spankings. I deserved 98.5% of those spankings. I held no resentment. And I knew that was a threat that was out there for me in case I did something wrong in public. And I could get it at any point and any time. My mom did not care if the president was walking by. If I was acting out, it was going down. But that was good because I knew that there was a repercussion. No matter what happened, I knew what was coming for my actions. When you have kids out here that don't think that there's anything that's going to happen to them, they know they're not going to get arrested. They're not going to get charged. What do you think they're going to do?
They're going to wild out.
They're not wild.
Wild stuff. All right, Liberty Doll, Miss Nikki, thank you so much for being with us today, talking about some wins for a change. We got to dunk on people a little bit. But again, everybody check out Nikki at Liberty Doll on YouTube. That is her main channel. Now, if you want to, before you go, if you want to plug your garden channel or you want to plug one of your
Sure.
sponsors, because I know, like you said, you're a stay-at-home mom. Got to make the bills, girl. You want
God.
to give a plug to our audience for one
I
of your
will tell
sponsors.
everyone that Blackout Coffee, not Black Rifle. So many people get it confused just because it has the word black in the name. Blackout Coffee Company. They are a small batch roaster out of Florida, and they have supported my channel for years, and they have really great coffee. They actually just sent me a huge box of stuff, and it's delicious. It's great. They actually even have partner roasts where they have joined up with Gun Owners of America and Firearms Policy Coalition, where proceeds from those roasts go directly to those gun rights organizations, so you can support the Second Amendment while getting a good cup of coffee. And if you go to using my link, which is blackoutcoffee.com/libertydoll, then I do also earn a commission on all the sales made through those links. And all week they have some kind of sale where you like buy two, get one free or something.
Ooh.
Cyber Week, I see it.
So,
All right. All right.
Blackout Coffee Company, like blackoutcoffee.com/LibertyDoll. I promote them all the time. And my gardening channel is gardening, homesteading, prepping, all of those things. I'm thinking that the bills are going to have to rely on that eventually, because eventually YouTube is going to push all of us firearms people out of there.
It
And
hates
that
us.
is just, yeah. And that is just Liberty Homestead. It's
Homestead,
small.
okay.
There's only 7 or 8 videos up so far, but
All right.
Okay.
my toddler
Building
cans
it.
pickles with me, and we do hydroponics and gardening and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I love it. That sounds
She's
fantastic.
gonna help me build a compost bin this week.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
That's toddlers at work. I like that.
You need a onesie or like a t-shirt that says toddlers at work with the little person crossing. That's an idea for your merch store.
That is good. I like that.
All right, everyone. Thank you again, Liberty Doll, for joining us talking about
you.
Second Amendment rights. Thank you, Benjamin, A Darker Perspective, for being with us to talk about all things guns and wins in the courts, y'all. We will see you next time.
Bye.